This week, the Clarets are on the road looking for their first Premier League victory against Arsenal. This is the None and Ever podcast. Hello and welcome to a very cheerful, happy episode of the No Nay Never podcast, because we are celebrating a victory. Hooray! We've finally beaten Arsenal. I'm your host, Natalie Bromley, and joining me this week is Richard and Tom to celebrate a rather marvellous 3 points. Let's dive straight in. Rich, how rosy does the world look when we're celebrating 3 points?
Yeah, you asked me before we recorded how you doing, Rich, and it always feels good. Yeah, 3 points on the board. Last week for me of working until the 2 weeks off at Christmas, and it's always nice seeing yourself not in that relegation zone. So fingers crossed, we got some decent fixtures coming up. We can go on a little bit of a run and hopefully not see that relegation zone again. But yeah, great, and it's great to beat Arsenal too.
Yeah, definitely. I think, Tom, it made it just feel all of that little bit better, didn't it? That we beat Arsenal. I didn't think this day was ever going to come.
No, there was a lot of kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily confidence, but there was a bit of a thought that we could get something, before the game. And, I like to think I'm a glass half full fan, but I can't watch an Arsenal game and not think someone's going to pop up and punch the ball in the back of the net in the last minute or something like that. So I would have loved a point, and I feel like we were playing for a point until the red card. But it was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was so enjoyable, so enjoyable.
Yeah, well, I'll come on to that in a minute as well, because I definitely noticed that as well. But Tom, you're so right, don't you? I think there was a moment towards the end of the game. I think we were already in injury time, and there was just a little bit of wastefulness, I thought, in the last 5 minutes, and just a little bit of naivety from our players. And maybe this was because Arsenal didn't really look like they threatened anything throughout the whole game, and they maybe got a bit complacent. But I remember we got possession really far forward, and rather than sticking it in the corner or just passing it, we tried to be really clever and pass really quickly, and we gave them possession. And Tom, at that point, I honestly thought in that last minute that somebody's going to score here or something. It was horrible to watch. I was behind the sofa. I don't know if you were.
Oh yeah, Brady. Everyone I was watching it with was just screaming, "Get in the corner! Get in the corner! Get in the corner!" And he's like looking up and yeah, I couldn't. I mean, fair play to him, man. He was going for the second goal, and we did
Yeah,
look like the more likely team to score, I would say, for a lot of the last half an hour, even after we got in front. But
yeah, I agree.
yeah, it didn't do my nerves any good. He's obviously not
No.
as worried about these games as I am. Blimey.
Definitely, and that's probably a good thing, actually. The fact that they were so relaxed, and as I mentioned a minute ago, I think a lot of it was very much down to the fact that Arsenal they threatened nothing. They offered very little to the game, and they're in a mess, which is you love to see. But it was just more that I think they just was just so like they're not going to score if we give the ball to them right in the penalty box. So I think they'd probably missed a penalty if they'd have got one in the last minute anyway. Rich, let's going back to the beginning then, and I think let's touch on this because Tom did raise it. I think he's right in that we definitely went down there looking for a point to start off with, and until that red card did obviously change things. I thought it was a much tighter performance and a much more disciplined performance. And considering our record at Arsenal and our position in the league, I actually think that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as Dyche alluded to, they've still got top players, and obviously they're struggling at the moment. But I still expect them to climb the table and probably come, top half. I still think in the end, which is obviously not great for Arsenal. But yeah, we know what we're going to do. Especially against some of the top teams, we can't play open and expansively because we might get caught out. I still have a bit of frustration, and I've kind of got used to it a little bit. I don't think we keep the ball well enough at times, and for Premier League teams, sometimes we do give the ball away far too easily. But Lacazette had a really good chance for them, where Pope made a great save. And other than that, I can't remember a really good chance they had. And Wood missed an absolute sitter, which was an interesting debate in our WhatsApp group during the game. And then but I think the ironic thing was I actually thought Arsenal was playing pretty well at the time of the sending off. They was getting on top. They had a few attacks, and then obviously that Xhaka sending off, just a moment of madness, absolutely changed the game in our favour. But full credit to us, even at 10 men, we could have sat off a little bit, Dice made subs, changed the strikers. It was good to see Vidra get on nice and early for a change, and yeah, it was obviously a brilliant moment when it went in, but yeah, very nervy finish.
Yeah, it really was. Do you think that's fair, Tom? And do you think that we were? Because I agree with Rich, and I think Arsenal were playing quite well by the time the red card came up. But actually, I also don't think that I felt particularly threatened. And I think one of the reasons for that, and I think we have to start mentioning this, is just the difference in our side since Ben Mee came back. Like, just for me, we just look back to our old selves again, and we just look so much more confident in defence. So as Rich is right, as much as they were starting to get a little bit on top and were having playing well, I never really thought they were going to score.
No, I think it's only that little voice in the back of your head that says, "Oh, someone's going to dive here for a penalty or something like that." That's telling you that they're going to score. But
This
if we were
fixture's getting
watching,
to you, Tom.
they're in my head. Yeah, that was an exorcism for me full time. No, but you're right. If that had been Burnley versus, say, I don't know, West Brom, and let's be honest, they didn't play much better than West Brom, Arsenal in that game. If that had been Burnley West Brom, and we were sitting back like that for the last 10 minutes, you'd think, well, we could do this with a cigar, and we're breezing this. They put a couple of balls in the box. Lacazette, Aubameyang, and Ketia. These players aren't going to win headers against me and Tarkovsky. They didn't really get too many opportunities in the first half to run it. As I thought, Willian didn't get around Taylor once. And he didn't seem to want to very often either. The only time they really looked like they had a threat was in the first half when they got the overload on the left-hand side. I thought Brady was perhaps not tracking back as much as he could have done. Leighton got double up on a bit. Tierney pulled that ball back for Lacazette, like Rich said. That was a great save in the first half. And the second half, they had a lot of the ball. A couple of the pullbacks did fine a man. But yeah, after the red card, they collapsed. And I don't really know. And I don't really know if Arteta knows what the plan was to recover the game after that. Dyche's post-match, he said that Arsenal were threatening for a good 10 minutes after the red card. I didn't see that at all. I thought we controlled the game. I think you're right, Natalie. I think it's the back five looks like the settled unit that we know it can be when it's at its best. And I thought as soon as Xhaka went off, I thought we controlled that game, and we could have played for another half an hour. I don't think they'd have scored.
Yeah, definitely. Looking to the red card then, Rich. Let's dive into these because we've got two situations to talk about. I think the red cards for me weirdly gave me a lot of comfort about the identity of Burnley side, and even when the chips are down and we are struggling a little bit, you just don't tend to see Burnley players react that same way. And I don't know whether it's just this Arsenal side and Arteta especially just aren't used to being in this scenario where maybe we are used to having to fight for everything and being disciplined. But I thought Graham Souness was particularly generous with his praise of us after the game by saying, even we know what we have to do and we know we have to fight for everything and we know that we have to really work hard in games, and seeing that petulance of both of those red card situations to me just evidences just what a solid side we are, irrespective of how badly a season's going.
Yeah, fully agree. And going back to obviously the two incidents, they were both to me. I don't understand how El Neni didn't get sent off either. They were
No,
both
well,
just
you wanted to rant about this, Rich, so please have the
they
floor.
were
I
just
know you wanted to do this.
they were just both blatant red cards. I don't think how you can. They were almost pretty much identical in a way. Obviously, I know Jacques was round the throat, but you're both raising your hands to an opposing to the opposition's face, and I just can't get why they didn't send El Neni off. Was it like, oh, we just don't want Arsenal to go down to 9 men, so we'll just give him a yellow? I thought that was just a bit strange. And Arsenal's discipline has been shocking since Arteta come in. They've had more red cards than any other Premier League team. And like you said, I think that just sums them up at the moment. A lack of discipline, and Jack is the captain, and he's doing that. And obviously Ben Mee's our captain. You'd never see him doing something like that. Especially when the game's so tight and you need points. And let's make no mistake about it, Xhaka getting sent off cost. That was the reason we won. So, in my opinion, I think other than that, it probably would have ended 0-0. Or, we could have won, but that really gave us the impetus in the game. But yeah, it's a strange one with El Neni. And as you mentioned too, we're, even though in difficult situations, we're really able to keep our discipline. And obviously, Arsenal are clearly feeling the pressure at the moment.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I've just realised, and Tom's just put in the chat box as well at the same time. Actually, it wasn't you who wanted to rant; it was Tom that wanted to rant. So, Tom, I'm gonna open up the floor to you to let you have that rant because I feel like there's a lot of like built up frustration about this fixture that you need to get off your chest today. But I think particularly, let's start it off by saying, as Rich just highlighted there, he ends up getting a yellow for it, and we don't know why. But I actually don't understand how that can be a yellow. Surely it's either a red or nothing.
Well, this is. So, I mean, this is sort of a rant. It's an Arsenal rant and it's a VAR rant as well. So
Okay, go ahead, go on,
they
Tom, get it out.
they look at it. So they look at that. So I mean, the first red card, it's obvious. The referee, I think he should be seeing that in real time, really. But obviously, they tell him to look at the monitor. It's pretty clear cut. We all know that's a red card. He's gone. Brilliant. The second one. So Tarkovsky's running in, eyes on the ball. And then he whacks him in the face. I mean, I've seen people sort of saying it's a push in the face. I mean, it's two hands in the face. He whacks him for me. Tarkovsky goes down. Then El Neni, in typical Arsenal fashion, dives. I mean, we know they love a dive. I've never seen anyone dive after hitting someone in the face, but he dives. And you think, well, perhaps in a pre-VAR world, that's not getting picked up on. He's hit a Tarkovsky in the face. Maybe the linesman's looking at the corner taker, the rest looking away. I can understand how the official can miss that. Someone has looked at a replay of that on a video screen. Someone has watched El Neni hit Tarkovsky in the face and then throw himself to the floor. And
I know.
I believe the Sky said after that the official explanation was that it was a yellow card because the players were jostling. So El Neni is
Did
jostling
you
with
see
two
Souness's
hands, and
reaction to
Tarkovsky's
that?
using his face to jostle. Have you ever seen anyone jostle with their face at a corner kick? Unbelievable.
No.
And I think I just I just cannot. There's just, and I really think if this game had finished one apiece or something, or if it had been the other way around and it had been a Burnley player who'd whacked an Arsenal player, this would have been talked about a lot more than it has been. And I think in a way the referees and the VAR particularly are so lucky that we won that game in spite of that incompetence, because it's just
Yeah,
inexplicable that isn't a red card. He hits him in the face. He hits him in the face,
yeah,
and
no,
then
I
to
agree.
compound it, he dives on the floor. I mean, if it's a yellow card for hitting him in the face, where's the second yellow for the simulation afterwards? Unbelievable. So irritating, because that could have cost us. If we'd have finished 1-1, that could have cost us. And there's not even like any ambiguity or anything about it. It really, really annoyed me. And I think the fact that they got away scot free with it, pretty much, they evaded all criticism because it wasn't the focal point. Because the focal point was, Arsenal are rubbish. Arsenal got beat again. That took all the spotlight off it for me, and it really wound me up. So I wanted to get that off my chest, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have done so.
That was amazing. That was I was captivated, Tom. We've not heard you. I've had a good goal like that for ages. And of course, absolutely everything you said is completely right, and you summarised that incredibly succinctly. So thank you for that. I share all of those frustrations. I can't. I hadn't seen the dive and the dramatics on the floor, and he also had the audacity to clutch his face as well, which was just like, are you having a laugh? Like, what is going on here? I mean, Rich, he's absolutely right, isn't it? A lot of it, I think, where they got away with it. I mean, to be fair, Sky and Souness especially, they did have a real go in the studio, and they did say that it was just confusing as to why it wasn't a red. But if that, can you imagine if that hadn't been against us, or we had have just drawn the game? And I also didn't think Dash. I thought Dash was a bit too polite about the whole thing as well. I thought he could have been a bit more stern.
Yeah, by the way, that rant from Tom was brilliant. I've never heard him sound so passionate about something. The one thing I get solace with Tom is he's Mr. Steady Eddie in the No Nay Never podcast when I'm an emotional wreck. So it was good to see that Tom's got that side to him.
Balance.
Uh, no, but yeah, I actually never really thought about it as deeply as what Tom said, and if he didn't get sent off, and because with 9 men, he's seen that going back to that game we played against Norwich last season against 9 men, which was bizarre, but it'd be very, very difficult for a team to score with 9 men. Yeah, and it definitely could have cost us. And just want to, as we've said before, it was just really strange why it wasn't given a red card. The only reason I can, like I said, that I can think of is that we just don't want Arsenal to go down to 9 men. it'll look a bit bad then. But yeah, it was just a blatant red card. You won't see a more blatant red card this season. And like you said, like Tom said, it summed up Arsenal and the petulance and the whinginess of them over the years and the culture of that club, that El Neni had the cheek to dive himself, just to try and get away with it. So yeah, but
He even looked at the referee as well when he was doing it, wasn't he? He was, yeah, you're
Andy's
right. He's
crap him
down low.
anyway.
He
I
is
don't know how he
crap.
gets a game for him.
Um, I'm going to stick with you, Rich, because
Yeah.
whilst I incorrectly came to you about ranting about something else, the one thing you do like to rant about is corners,
Yeah.
which played a bit of a focal point in this game. How are you feeling about Burnley corners right now,
Oh,
Rich?
it's funny, the corner debate we have. I think the No Nay Never group actually hate me for it, but it's a crusade I've been leading this season, and I think I've mentioned it on a podcast, but it's just
Yeah, you are.
so many of our corners this season have been right in the middle of the 6 yard box, straight to the goalie, and like the goalie's caught him. Even Pickford was catching him on Saturday, and he's about 5'2". So I think there was one corner against Everton where we hit a little bit deeper and Wood got a header. And then this one, it was nice to see us mix it up a little bit, like get that front post run. And because Brownhill made that run, it put Aubameyang under pressure. So I just hope throughout this season now, because we've got such dangerous players, that we mix our set pieces up a little bit. Oh, sorry, our corners up a little bit more, and just don't hit him straight at the goalie, waiting for him to try and make a mistake or something like that. So that's my little rant about it. I have, if you asked me about corners after the Everton game, I would have gone on even more. But yeah,
We've been keeping
we'll
you
see.
safe.
We'll see how it goes on Thursday night. Whether we hit him straight at that Martinez, who's about 6'5", or we do mix him up a little bit more. No,
Yeah,
but
but
listen, it's great. It was funny as well, and the poetic justice that Aubameyang's not scored all season,
yeah.
scores tons against us, and then he was the one to get the goal. So that was another nice little plot twist to the game.
It was. It was just the stars aligned on Sunday night for sure. It was a sweet moment. Tom, looking, I guess, to a couple of what's the word I'm looking for? Individual performances. I thought Robbie Brady was pretty exceptional, as was Josh Brownhill and Ben Mee, I've already mentioned. We're starting to see some standout performances from some players, which sometimes we don't always see. We tend to see more of a solid team unit, don't we? But we're starting to see a few superstars amongst our ranks at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like I owe Brady an apology because, as you know, I'm a big fan of Brady. I've been beating the drum for Brady for a while. But the last time I was on the podcast, you asked me if I thought maybe you should go at the end of the season, and I kind of said, yeah, with a heavy heart, probably it's best to get rid of him. And since then, he's been brilliant. So
Well done, Tom.
I'm not saying it was me that, that inspired him, of course, but I want to apologise to Robbie. I'd give him a 3-year deal tomorrow if he walks in. Yeah, he was.
You'll jinx him. You'll jinx him. Don't say that.
I thought he was the best player on the pitch against Everton. I thought he was our best player, and he had another really good game against Arsenal. Not taking the ball into the corner in the 92nd minute aside. Yeah, I think he's got a bit more. He's what Rich said earlier about keeping the ball, holding on to the ball. He's probably the best midfielder at the minute for doing that because he doesn't. He's a bit more comfortable with it at his feet, I think. So I noticed,
Yeah.
particularly in the first half, a lot of the time the impulse from everybody was to turn and go backwards. And McNeil has had the problem this season a lot of turning and going sideways. Not taking his man on. And I thought Brady suffered from that less than everybody else. He took his man on a few times. He put that ball in for Ward where he should have scored. I think he used the ball better than the rest of the midfielders, especially in the first half. Probably faded out a little bit in the second half. But again, he did keep it well. And I think that's what we did best once they went down to 10 men. Is we realised we had the opportunity and we kept the ball so much better, and that's the platform that we built from. So yeah, special mention for him and Brownhill, as you say as well. He's just he's just what we need in that midfield. He's a terrier. He gets about. You saw him blocking shots in one box. You see him. I'm sure he'll credit himself for putting Aubameyang off for the goal. He's busy in both boxes. He never stops running. He's a Dyche type player, and he looks like a real bargain, especially given that half what we paid for him we recouped in getting rid of Wells, who never played for us anyway. So that, yeah, brilliant bit of business, and I think you're right. I think they were two, especially in the midfield, they were the two players that really stood out.
Definitely. Rich, with Jack Cork said to be on his way back and nearly ready to return to the first team, I think Daesh has got a little bit of a headache in the central midfield.
Yeah, it's going to be. I think Brownell has been a real standout this season. I think he's been excellent and he's improving all the time. He's got great dynamism to his game. He's obviously got an eye for goal too. It's a real difficult one. I'm a big fan of Cork. I think when Cork plays, and I've actually realised it more now he's not playing, is how much composure he gives us on the ball. And I think when Cork plays, he is someone who likes to get us forward a little bit more. So I don't think he's going to rush back into the team. Westwood and Brown are playing pretty well. You know what you're going to get with West. He's a solid, you know, solid player week in week out. If I was to drop anyone, if Cart was to cut back in at the moment, it would be Westwood. I do feel, still in central midfield, whether it's somebody coming off the bench, a young player coming in, we do need a little bit more flair there at times. When we go 1-0 up, Brownhill and Westwood's a great partnership. But yeah, as I would stick with them two for now, but and if Cork was gonna come in, I would probably choose it for Westy, which I say with a very, very heavy heart. I thought Tom made some great points on Brady there, but I don't want to be a bit of a killjoy. We still desperately need improvements down that right side, in my opinion. No, he's done very well over these last two games, and he's proved, he's proved me wrong, and a lot of people, I imagine. But yeah, I think we just need more options, especially with the injury record of those two.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that, and I think everybody's realised that this squad does need an overhaul, and I think that's what we're hoping to get the takeover done before the January transfer window and try and get some players in there. But I think there's nothing we can do about that at the moment because the transfer window is shut and we don't have any money to spend. So we've got to kind of look at seeing how we win and how we get away from the bottom of that table. With the players that we've got, and with Brady just doing as well as he is, and like you say, Brown are looking like an absolute bargain. It's really helping us to just get them points on the board, and it's really good. Tom, how do we change our mindset now going into the game next week against Wolves? Because Wolves are a very different proposition from Arsenal at the moment, a very different side, one that's a lot more positive. There are a few Wolves fans at the moment showing a bit of discontent with Nuno, saying that it's time for him to go, which I find incredible. But how do we go from the Arsenal game to the Wolves game?
Well, I think there's one in between in there, Villa on Thursday before the Wolves
Oh
game.
God, of course there is. Do you know what? I've just seen Tom. I've just seen Richard's note there. Do you know? I don't even know what day we're on. So forgive me. It's what's it called? It's Villa on Thursday and then Wolves at the weekend.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
That's
Wolves are
right,
playing
isn't it? Yeah.
tonight. They've
Okay.
just
Well,
scored a
to be honest,
95th
there,
minute
yeah.
winner against Chelsea.
Excellent. Oh God. To be honest, Villa and Wolves are pretty similar. Villa are playing very well this season. So let's just take that same question and put it to both teams. How do we take the momentum and that confidence from the weekend and apply it to both of the fixtures coming up this week?
Yeah, to be fair, I think you're right. I think they're similar kind of fixtures. Um, for me, so the position that we're in, especially in the fact that we're getting some points on the board and we're putting a bit of a run together, I would be too unhappy with going for a point in these games or getting a point in these games. Villa, they have blown a bit hot and cold, and I don't think they're quite as good as they were at the start of the season. But it, that's a game that if we took a point from that, I don't think anyone would complain. Wolves, I mean, I'm pretty sure Wolves draw every single game 1-1 anyway. So if that finished 1-1 again, I'd be happy with that. Um, so yeah, like for me, I don't think we need to be getting too carried away and it's like we get another 3 points against Villa, then we're up here, then another 3 points there. Just keep ticking along, just keep plugging away, getting these steady points. What we've got, I think, over especially West Brom and Sheffield United, but I think Fulham as well. I know Fulham played well against Liverpool, but I don't think they're the real deal just yet. We have got the capability to put a run together, to put an unbeaten run together. I know one defeat in five. That Man City away is always a bit of an anomaly. For me, I think what we've got to focus on is the performance level. I don't want to sound like Sean Dyche, but for me, if we keep up with that performance level, the points are going to look after themselves. So I think what it does do is it's essentially it's that bonus points Arsenal where you don't really expect to get anything there, irrespective of the form they're in. So it gives us that bit of freedom, I think, to go away there, and come away with a point and say, yeah, that's a decent point. Keep the unbeaten run going, keep a bit of momentum going. Especially with having our heads above water now as well, being above that relegation zone. So yeah, for me, I think it's calmed everything down a little bit. I think now if we lose that Villa game, we're not going to be panicking quite as much. We know we've got the capability within our ranks now. If we drop points in that Villa game, I mean, I heard a few people after the Everton game saying, that's 2 points drop. That was a missed opportunity. Maybe it was. We played well on the day, but it was a good point overall. And I think points that we pick up here and there, especially over this Christmas period, are going to see us right. So yeah, I think what it does do is it just calms everything down a bit, and hopefully that kind of mentality and the form continues.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've been looking at, Rich, and I think this has changed slightly. I think the if you remember at the beginning of the Premier League, that the season absolutely went flying, and we were getting 5, 6 goals every single game. That seems to have calmed down a little bit now, and you've seen a lot fewer goals being scored, and we're getting sort of back to the draws and the 1-0s and the 2-1s, those kind of, like 1 or 2 goal margins in them, with the exception of 1 or 2 impressive performances. So I think the immediate pressure for us to score more goals, so we don't get absolutely hammered every week, has dropped down slightly. But I still feel like if we're going to, go on that run that Tom talked about, we do need to still start finding a few more chances. I still don't think we're creating as many as we can. I don't know if there's an answer to that. I don't know how, with the squad of players we've got, how do we get more chances for Wood and for Jay?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. Obviously, with the amount of goals that's been conceded and that's settled down, it'll be interesting to see the running stats and everything. Our players kind of been working on the defensive shape a little bit more. I know maybe the international break can have an impact where teams can't work on a defensive shape, and I think for us not having an international break for 3 weeks or so and has really helped us where and getting players back fit. Obviously, thinking in terms of the chances created, we've never been a team who's kind of creates loads and loads of chances per game. Your best mate Wood has kind of missed some big chances this season. And I'm not saying you should score them every time, and I know it's difficult, but he does look like he's lacking in confidence a little bit. I think it just comes down to something that does frustrate me. I think if you keep the ball better in midfield, which is our weak point, and I thought Tom made a good point about Brady. Sometimes Westwood frustrates me. He's too keen to get that first time ball into the channel, and sometimes it can just go out to player for a goal kick. So I thought against Everton, I think for us it's just that bit of quality that lacks in the final third. We sometimes have good build-up play, and it's a final cross or a final ball. And I suppose that's the difference between the players we've got and the players that cost 25, 30 million. Is that just a little bit of added quality in the big moments?
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. By the way, this was a debate that we had on social media at the weekend. I think people are split into two camps with this, and I think some people are very much an advocate of dropping Wood and bringing Barnes back into the equation. I'm firmly in the other camp.
Can
I
I
think
add to
that,
that,
yeah, go
Natalie?
on, of course.
If 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 Wood gets dropped, I am not an advocate for Barnes coming back in,
Oh, okay.
and I'm quite happy to play Wood. But I
Yeah,
think it was just funny from the game on Saturday. Like George said, he thought he played really well, and I thought he was awful on Monday.
yeah.
Sorry, I think sometimes his first touch and the way he passes the ball, it's like he's got a metal foot. It just pings off him sometimes. And for and again, he doesn't maybe get a lot of service, but sometimes he does get you know balls into his feet that I'd expect a Premier League football to be able to control and then lay off.
No, I think that's a
And
really
that's
I think that's a
and
valid
when
criticism.
and when Wood's kind of not Scott, I know it sounds daft, and you can't get everything, and this is the reason why he's playing for Burnley and maybe not one of the better teams. If he's missing chances and he's not scoring, his games, in my opinion, quite limited compared to maybe other, a Jay or a Vidra technically, or maybe some other strikers we've had in the past. You look at, Southampton now, they're flying. There's no way Wood would start for them. There's no way Wood would get in. That's the kind of the level I'm talking about. And for me, he's still deserving of a starting place at the team. But at the same time, he can't be. I think it's a fair reflection for people to go, when he's not scoring goals, he's actually quite an average striker, and I think that's the camp I'm in. Sorry for interrupting your point there. I just think it's
No, no,
it's
no, no. It's
important
good.
that to get like a balanced view on his performance. That I am a fan of his, but I'm not maybe a fan of as much of other people. And technically, at times, he is quite weak. But
No, they're all really good points. Like I say, I think I'm the I'm probably the polar opposite of you in that I am a massive fan of Wood, and he would be, on the team sheet as a first choice striker every time. But then, at the same as what you've said there, Rich, I'm not averse to listening to constructive criticisms about his performance. I know he's not perfect. I felt for some time now that as a club we've perhaps moved past just having Barnes, who is brilliant at what he does, and there is nobody better, and he is just one on his own. But a lot of his abilities up front are of a very bespoke nature and become nullified quite easily. But yeah, listen, I think as long as I've got Jay on the pitch at the moment, I think that's the main thing. I think the worst thing for me is I think when we do descend into having Wood and Barnes as our first two strikers in a 4-4-2, I think that's a recipe for disaster for me for sure. Tom, any thoughts from you ahead of the games coming up this next week? Do you think we go out all out attack, or do you think we just keep it tight and try and keep for those draws that you talked about, bearing in mind what we've just talked about the strike force?
Yeah, I thought actually, just a point on Barnes, I thought he's been pretty poor this year, but after having a bit of a break, I thought his best two games actually were Everton and Arsenal. He was a lot more. He affected the game so much more against Everton. He put a great ball in for I think it was Rodriguez near the end, and then Arsenal. I just thought he held the ball up really well. I thought he did exactly the job that we needed from him when he came on. So I think he's not to say he's played himself back into the team. I think you've got to give Wood and Rodriguez a bit more of a run together, but none of them are really scoring at the minute. So I think if he keeps coming on and affecting games like that, he'll give himself more of a chance to get to play himself back into the team. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the next couple of games, I mean, I suppose we're never really going to change our approach. We're always going to play 4-4-2. We're always going to sit tight and try and get the best side of a game with that's going to have fine margins. I don't think we're going to get snotted by Villa or Wolves. They're not going to beat us 2 or 3-0. We're not going to beat them 2 or 3-0. And when we're at our best when we're doing that to teams, and I hesitate to say dragging them down to our level, but playing them at our own game would perhaps be a better way of putting it. And if we keep doing what we're doing, we're doing that to teams at the minute, and we're getting results. So I think we're more than capable of winning both of these games. I did say earlier, I'd be happy with the point to keep it ticking over, but the way we're playing, I could easily see us getting 4 points from these two games, or even 2, 3, 4. That's a good return, I think, for me. Keeps it going. I would be very surprised. I don't know who they're playing, but I'd be very surprised if Fulham, West Brom, or Sheffield United were able to get 3 or 4 points from the next two games. So, keep getting results like that, and we'll be moving up the table sooner rather than later.
Are you still feeling really confident that we're going to be safe this year, Tom? Sorry, I found myself on mute then. I was talking to myself. I was thinking, why are the boys not answering? I was like, oh, that's why I'm on mute. Bearing that in mind then, Tom, are you still confident we're going to stay up this year?
Yeah, I've always been confident. There was a lot of doom and gloom after the first 5-6 games, but for me, we've seen it before. We've had bad spells in the Premier League. Even the year we got into Europe, we had a run where we were rubbish. I remember going to Swansea away, we got beat 1-0. We were absolutely diabolical. So it is what it is, peaks and troughs, especially with the players that we had missing at the start of the season. We're never gonna do well without me and Tarkowski. So yeah, for me, I always thought we'll have enough. There's 3 worse teams than us, and I haven't seen anything in the last few games that's made me change my mind. So yeah, I think I'm not saying we're going to finish top half, but I think we're going to be safe.
Good stuff. Rich, the only the main other news coming out of this week as well, which I want to just discuss before we wrap up for this week, is the news, of course. We're recording this, what day is it today? It's Tuesday the 15th. We are eagerly waiting an announcement tomorrow that Lancashire will be dropped into Tier 2, thus meaning that Burnley fans will be able to go back to Turf Moor Monday the 21st of December against Wolves, the game that isn't the next one, but will be coming up soon. I know we've got a lot of, I think the team known and ever's probably split in half. We've got probably half the team who don't live in a Lancashire postcode, and the other half who do. Both of you well, obviously, Rich, you're in Lancashire, and Tom, you're not. So I'm going to ask both of you, because you're going to have different ways of how you feel about this. Rich, your address is listed in Lancashire. Do you think it's fair?
Yeah, it's
Do you
listed
think
in
it's fair?
Lancashire. Yeah, I think it's a really difficult one. I've heard conflicting interests. Some saying it's the league, some saying it's the club. I thought the initial statement, I can't remember. I think it was Friday it come out, because I was waiting for a Chinese when it come out, so that was Friday night. So I was reading that, waiting for my Chinese. I thought the initial statement was a bit unfair, and didn't clear it up. But then I read a statement last night that if we are putting tier two, it's all ifs and buts in it. But if we are putting tier two, that they're gonna use the Wolves game as like a bit of a, what's the right word I'm looking for? As like a bit of a trial game, to see
Yeah,
how it
it is.
goes and
Yeah,
everything like that. And then they're
yeah.
gonna review, it after that. So hopefully, all being well, and stuff like that. I know Tom lives in Derby. I've said there's people in Yorkshire, etc. Well, from all over the country. I know where I sit, there's kind of not one person is actually from Burnley. So hopefully after that, they will maybe open it up to other areas that are in tier two, so like where Tom is in Derby. So I think if that happens, I think it's pretty fair. I think, in my opinion, obviously, the way they've done the season tickets, if you keep your season ticket, you can get it free for next year, and then you get put in the ballot. Some people disagree with me, and that's fine, because it is a very difficult one, but I think that's fair too. Hopefully, though, that if we do get put into tier two, this Wolves game is the trial game, and then they do open it up for loyal supporters who do live in other parts of the country. I think if they don't open it up to other supporters that are in tier two after this initial first game against Wolves, then I do think it's unfair.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an impossible situation, and it's one that we have to look at. I guess for me, I don't understand unless somebody can explain it, about the Lancashire thing. I think for me, as long as you are in a tier two area and you're not travelling from a tier three area into Lancashire, then that should be okay. Tom, obviously you are outside of Lancashire, so you are going to be barred from this first ballot. With trying to keep as subject head on as possible, how do you feel about this?
Uh, well, what disappointed me when I first read it was that the way that the season ticket refund was sold as, if you want the refund, that's fine, but you're not going to be eligible for the ballot. But if you let us keep your season ticket money, then you can apply as soon as they come out. And then when the ballot rolls around, then it's, oh no, sorry, you can't actually apply. So then you think, well, I understand it's not the most important thing, but if you're gonna, if you were gonna keep my money, then you might have said that at the time. I have seen, though, I think the update that the club gave out yesterday, and if any of you haven't seen it, it is worth doing, because it's all about making sure that your details on the website are correct for when you want to apply for the ballot. So anyone who's not seen it, it is worth getting over to the club website and having a read. But it did say on there that it did explain the logic behind that, which wasn't in the original press. So they've said that because it's going to be a test event, the first game, the first game back with fans, that's why they've restricted that, and they will look at that after the first game if it does happen. So I don't mind so much if it is one game. It's the lack of clarity in the comms, which is a problem that we get quite often with the club, unfortunately. But that was the frustration for me. But I've sort of made my peace with the fact that I'm probably not going to get to more than sort of 2 or 3 games this season anyway. So if they come a bit later in the season, it is what it is. Um, and to get people back in will be the nicest thing, even if I'm not one of the lucky few.
Well, what a lovely attitude from both of you. I'm very proud of you both now. Yeah, it's that I think that's the overriding feeling for me, and I'd like to think that even if I had moved outside of the area and I was prohibited from going in, I would feel the same way. I know it's tough for those people who are not yet going to get to a game, but it's just going to take a while to get us all back to normal. So, and you never know, we might not even get into tier two next, so we might end up all being for nothing. No other club news then to talk of, other than we keep hearing little snippets about the takeover. Is it going ahead? Is it not going ahead? Are ALK about to get over the line? Are they not? Do the Egyptian consortium think that they're going? Goodness me, I'm losing a little bit of track for it, but I think we can all believe it's fair to say that we just want to get them sorted before January transfer window, because we just want to get some budget in for some players. Otherwise, it's going to be a long old second hard to the season. I think that's all we've probably got time for this week. Rich, Tom, do either of you have anything that we've not covered that you want to tie off before we finish off?
Yeah, nothing springs to mind. Yeah, basking in that Arsenal is always the main thing, isn't it? And I think we've done enough of that.
I'm going to play your rant on loop later. Rich, I don't think there's anything else that we needed, was there? Could you have anything?
No, I think it's all been covered. I think, it's really nice to have that win at Arsenal. It just keeps us in positive spirits. And hopefully, we can just really. I think it's not just getting the 3 points. I think getting that win at Arsenal, I think will give the players a massive boost. And there's moments where we've looked back on in previous seasons where they've been a turning point. I think obviously a key one was Leicester last season, and hopefully this can be a bit of a turning point this one. And I'm confident in the next few games we can pick up a healthy amount of points and hopefully start moving a little bit further away from the relegation zone.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things we've probably not concentrated on enough is that we have had some pretty shocking fixtures in these opening games. We've not had the easiest of fixtures, particularly at home. So, sometimes that can make a difference when you are worried about having a good start. Well, that's all we've got time for this week, folks. An absolutely fantastic podcast to bask in the glory of finally beating the Gooners. And if you do want a bit of a laugh, just have a troll through social media and troll, not a troll, have a troll. Don't be being nasty to people. Play nicely. There's some phenomenal Arsenal fan rants which are just a joy to watch. If you've got any comments, questions, or anything, get in touch. I'm not sure what our timetable is going to be for the next week or so. There's having 2 games. I'm going to pretend that I knew that before we started recording. I know tonight Dave and I will be recording the preview show for the Villa game. So that will come out in the next 24 hours as well. So you're going to have a bumper 2 podcasts at once. Look at you. But obviously the rest of the team will get back together to talk about the rest of the results as and when we can. We'll probably do, I would imagine, Villa and Wolves together, I would have thought. But let's see how this week goes. Take care of yourselves in the meantime. My thanks, as ever, go to producer Matt for producing this and putting it all together, to Band Joyce for providing our music, to Rich and to Tom for wonderful contribution to tonight's show, and finally to you, the listeners, for downloading and listening to this podcast. Your support is very much appreciated, and we would not be here without you. Take care until we meet the next time, and if you've got anything you want to send to us, you know how to get in touch. I've been Natalie Bromley. This has been the Non Another podcast. Until next time.